Boy, this took quite the turn. Hello everyone, I'm your only mate, and I figured it was about time I finally did a part 2 to my what if Yang didn't lose her arm, like, what if scenario. So in this video, I'm going to continue where I left off, go over the events of RWBY Volume 5, and see how they play out. So a quick recap before we begin. Yang got to see Blake leave and has a better understanding as to why she did. She's gone along with Team Ranger to Haven Academy, and thanks to her presence, they have an easier time on their journey. Speaking of which, in my first video, I asked if anyone could comment below suggesting what Team Ranger plus Yang's new team name would be. The results are in, and their new name is Team January. Now, coincidentally, this was actually suggested by two people, so shout out to C Spadina and Yang the Insane for suggesting this name and, giving us an actual name for this team. So we start off with Crow taking Team January to Haven Academy so they could meet Professor Lionheart. Now, this scene plays out roughly as it does normally, but we also get to see Yang's reaction to finding out that Raven, her mother, has the Spring Maiden. Like everyone in that room, of course, she is really shocked to find this out, but she also demands answers, and this gives her even more reason to go and find Raven. I think it's safe to say she would try and leave the group out of an impulse, but someone stops her. Leo tells her, well, the situation that they're in, how, there's only so many of them. Crow and Raven are evenly matched. Leo's not the huntsman he used to be, and, well, can he really take care of Raven? A maiden who's likely been able to hone her skills. Keep in mind they don't know that's Raven at this point. And an entire bandit tribe. So they leave, and as usual, Leo passes on this new piece of information to Salem. Of course, Crow tells the kids to go back to the house just like he did in the original story. However, this time, he wants Yang to go with him to the bar. See, Crow knows just how much Yang wants to find Raven and have all those questions about why she left answered. So, I think it's safe to say at the bar he would sit her down, they would have a uncle-niece chat about this whole thing. But their chat is interrupted with the arrival of Oscar. Crow tells Oscar exactly what he said in the original story, and of course, Oscar talks to Ozpin with, "Shut up, I'm getting to it." And, of course, they don't know what to take of this. Yang is a bit weirded out. Like, what? Especially when Oscar tells Crow, "I'm supposed to tell you I like my cane back?" I think at that point Yang would just think, yeah, this kid's crazy. But to her surprise, Crow gets up, pulls out Ozpin's cane, and says to him, "Good to see you again, Oz," and hands it to Oscar. Which leaves, Yang just, what? Let's face it, if you were in that situation, that's exactly how you would respond. Now, I imagine at the bar, Yang would want to know what exactly is happening, why this kid is Ozpin all of a sudden, but, well, same thing of Crow happens in the original. He becomes Drunkle Crow, and, well, Yang kind of has to carry him back to the house. And Oscar's just like, oh, what have I got myself into? With Oscar there, Ozpin does his Yu-Gi-Oh thing and explains his reincarnation shtick to Team January. Now, there is something I do want to talk about just a bit quickly. In the first part, I said that it's likely the rest of the team would tell Yang you're kind of relying on your semblance a little bit too much. Honestly, I went a little back and forth on that decision, and I don't know what else I can say. But I realized that would happen right here. Ozpin would tell her that. That scene where he points out, the way that all the kids need to improve, he would say, "RWBY, you can only fight with your scythe. You need to get better in hand-to-hand. Yang, you rely on your semblance too much. Jean, you've improved, definitely, great, but you need to unlock your semblance. Rena Nora, do better than you're currently doing and try to win." So there we go. Yang still gets that advice regardless, from Ozpin. That I just wanted to get out of the way just for my own peace of mind. So, moving on, back to the story. As you'd expect, Crow searches high and low for huntsmen and huntresses to join their cause. And, well, we know how that goes. Not well. However, this is when he bumps into no one. Now here's the part of Volume 5 that would absolutely change the most. How does Weiss get to everyone? Because if you remember, in the actual story, Yang turned up at the bandit camp, found Weiss, and Weiss went with her to reunite with RWBY and co. But, well, Yang's already there. So let's see how Weiss's side of Volume 5 would change. Now, as you'd expect, her ship crashes, she gets kidnapped by the bandits, and they tell her that they're going to ransom her back to her family. But if you remember, she also had a little plan together to escape. So we actually get to see how that plan would go. I imagine Weiss putting her plan in motion at night, you know, when all the bandits are asleep, so she's got, like, a very low chance of being spotted doing this. She summons her little tiny knight, it cuts her restraints and picks the lock of her cage, walks out. However, she does still need to get her weapon back. And who has it? Vanal. Now I imagine during the day Weiss would be keeping an eye on everyone, you know, just trying to find patterns that everyone's going in, and, you know, which tent is Vanal's because she does still have a weapon. So, with all that done, Weiss is able to sneak around everyone, get to Vanal's tent, grab her weapon, and leaves the camp. There is just one little problem for Weiss right now. Where is she? She doesn't know exactly where she is right now. She just knows, well, she needs to get to Haven Academy, but she doesn't know which direction it's in. Fortunately for her though, after a night of, you know, searching the woods and just wandering around, she comes across a nearby petrol station. Before anyone comments, that's what a gas station is called in England, so that's just what I call it, so just FYI, thought I'd throw that out there. Anyway, this is the same place that Yang was at in the first chapter of Volume 5. Weiss walks in an absolute state, and the guy behind the bar is just like, oh my, okay, come in, just, are you okay? Here, have some water on the house. Now Weiss informs him of her situation, and he replies with, oh, those bandits are a whole world of trouble, just like he tells Yang. Of course he gives her directions to get to Haven Academy, so Weiss knows where to go. She's set. But that's when this guy walks in. The guy who Yang punched and knocked his tooth out. Yeah, remember, he does go there, so he likely find her. He recognizes Weiss right away, tries to apprehend her, but Weiss uses her glyphs to, you know, make him bounce all over the room like Yang did when she punched him, and send him flying out the door. Of course, his face hits something and he still loses his tooth. Yeah, that ain't changing. Now, Weiss needs to act quick. If this guy found her, then there might be a whole bunch of others nearby. As she leaves the petrol station, remember, that's what it's called in my country, the guy gets up and calls for backup. Now remember, Weiss is understandably pretty exhausted at this point. She doesn't have it in her to fight, well, for what she knows, an entire bandit tribe by herself. So she uses her semblance to summon the Queen Lancer, gets on its back, and takes to the skies. Now of course a group of bandits do show up, they try to shoot her, but it ultimately doesn't really work. You know, bad guys can't aim for shit. Now Weiss is in the air at the moment, there are birds like right next to her. One of them goes up just a little down to our frame, by the way, that comes up soon. She can feel the wind in her face, through her hair. Weiss is on her way to Haven Academy. She is free. But then a red sword stabs through the Queen Lancer, thus killing it. And of course, once that evaporates, Weiss plummets to the ground. Of course, before Weiss actually hits the ground, she uses her landing strategy as a little callback to Volume 1. But she feels a powerful blow to the back, knocking her to the ground. She has that thing where, you know, your eyes close, it goes black, and then as she opens them, there's Raven right in front of her saying, "Nice try, kid," and punches her in the face to knock her out. Now remember that bird that I said descends from view of Weiss when she was on the Queen Lancer? That was Raven. Remember, the bandits were planning to ransom Weiss back to the Schnees. That's big Leanne right there. I mean, they're not gonna let Weiss get away that easy. So, unfortunately for Weiss, she is recaptured. For what it's worth, if Raven couldn't turn into a bird, she would have gotten away. Damn it, Ozpin. You had to give her that ability. Now, let's fast forward to when Cinder and the rest get to the bandit camp and make a little deal with Raven since they know the Spring Maiden is there. They have their discussion with Raven, they think it's Vanol, and they begin to make an arrangement. But one of them recognizes Weiss, and Cinder remembers how much Weiss means to RWBY in particular. So I imagine one of them would say to Raven, well, let us use her and getting the relic gets so much easier. And Raven allows it. But mate, you just said that they wouldn't let Weiss go so easily, so why is Raven just giving her away right now? Well, that's because Raven just wants to stay out of all the Salem and the Maiden and Relic stuff. So, if she just hands Weiss over, and everything's done all the quicker, then whatever. So, I believe she would take that deal. Now we fast forward to the bit in Volume 5 where the group enter the room to meet with Lionheart. A notable difference here is when Yang's looking around and she spots Raven in her bird form, she just says, you know, that bird looks familiar. Crow turns around, recognizes it's Raven, shoots at her, and then she turns into, you know, her regular human form behind Lionheart. And everyone is beyond shocked. This would be the first indication that they have of, you know, the Crow and Raven turning into birds thing. But the whole reason Osborn explained it is because Raven showed Weiss and Yang in the original story. But here he has no reason to, so everyone's just like, over the top anime reaction! That's the best way I can explain that. Now they exchange the same dialogue in this scene right up until Raven opens the portal to, you know, allow everyone else to enter the room. But this time, only Emerald and Mercury emerge. And of course, you know, the rest of the gang are prepared to attack them, but Emerald stops them saying, I wouldn't do that if I were you. They of course wonder what exactly she means, and Mercury pulls out something from behind his back, saying, well, we've got something, or rather, someone you might be interested in. Pulls out Weiss's weapon, which, of course, is recognized. Everyone is stunned by this, especially RWBY. And once Cinder and Vanol enter the room, they have Weiss with them, but, you know, tied up and restrained. Now, I just want to take a moment to imagine RWBY's reaction to this. I mean, we would see her, like, angry at the villain, like, deeply concerned for her best friend. She has called Weiss her BFF before. I just imagine we would see RWBY really vulnerable here. Cinder grabs Weiss and says to them, I'm gonna make this easy for you. Give up the relic, or this one dies too. Now all of them, well, RWBY and Jean especially, now there are tears in all their eyes and they're just pleading to Crow to do something and save Weiss. Sure enough, Hazel walks in and explains what the White Fang are doing, like he did in the original. Now Cinder puts her hand around Weiss's face and tells them, well, it's time to make your decision. What's it gonna be? So Cinder does something to try and persuade them, well, / torture them a little bit, and proceeds to start burning Weiss. Now Weiss is screaming in absolute agony right now. You can even hear like a little sizzling sound as Cinder is burning her. All of this, combined with everyone just pleading to him, just makes Crow shout, enough! Cinder stops, and Crow tells her, let the girl go, and you can have the relic. So, like in the original, Leo opens up the path to the vault for the villains, but they want the heroes to accompany them down there. Why is that? Well, I mean, do they want to risk like, the heroes planning like a little ambush for them? No. This is just so they can make sure that, you know, the good guys don't try and plot anything, and they can just get the relic, and, well, it's another job done. Once they all reach the vault, Cinder, of course, like in the original, tells Vanol, once the Spring Maiden puts her hand on the door, it will open for you and only you. Then I'll walk in and retrieve the relic. Now, of course, as Vanol is walking towards the door, this is when Cinder creates a small blade in her hand and stabs Weiss in the gut. She then throws Weiss to the rest of the heroes, which confuses Raven beyond belief. Like, wait, what? And in this commotion, Cinder then freezes Raven, as she does in the original story. As all the good guys catch Weiss and, you know, make sure that she's okay, Cinder then proceeds to use her stretchy grim arm and, well, stab Vanol. While Cinder is walking towards Vanol, explaining how she's going to take the Spring Maiden's power for herself, some of the heroes, they do try and stop her. However, they are thwarted by Leo, Emerald, Mercury, and Hazel all at once. I don't really see them getting past them. Plus, they do still have ways to worry about. So Cinder's plan goes the exact same. She kills Vanol and expects to get the Spring Maiden powers, only to find out that Vanol wasn't the Spring Maiden. Of course, in all this, Hazel would see that Oscar is holding Ozpin's cane, and I think he would piece it together, especially with Leo recognizing it as well, and probably going, Ozpin! Out loud. So, Hazel would still do his thing. So the rest of the group need to come up with a plan right now. And sure enough, RWBY has something. Her and Yang team up to take on Emerald and Mercury. Rena Nora take on Hazel. Oscar, Lionheart, and Jean do whatever you can to make sure Weiss is okay. Which then of course proceeds to Jean discovering her semblance as in the original story. So Weiss is gonna be fine, okay? Now you might be thinking, wait, where's Crow in all of this? Well, upon discovering that his twin sister was the Spring Maiden the entire time, and, the fact that Cinder is planning on taking that power for herself, making her even more of a threat, he teams up with Raven to take on Cinder. Okay, at this point, there's a lot of fights happening right now in such a short space, so I'm gonna go through each fight individually from start to finish. It's just easier for me that way. I don't want to have to explain a little bit of one, then another, and then another, and just keep going back and forth between them. It's just easier if I just go through one through its entirety to the next. So that's what I'm gonna do. So first of all, we have Cinder versus Raven and Crow. Now the best way I could describe this is, those fights in Star Wars when it's Count Dooku versus Obi-Wan and Anakin, and try and picture that. It'd be Cinder just using one blade, or even two in some parts, to stop Raven and Crow at the same time. Also picture fire and ice being flown around, having to leap between falling rocks. It's just absolutely epic. I mean, you saw that fight in Volume 5. Be a little bit like that, except Crow is in there too. Admittedly, there isn't a lot that Crow would be able to do here, but remember that bad luck semblance of his? Well, it kicks in, and because of that, Hazel is sent flying at Crow, which I will explain soon. And with this opening, Cinder then uses her stretchy grim arm to stab Raven the exact same place she did Vanol. As Crow gets up and sees that Cinder is trying to suck away the Spring Maiden power, he leaps ahead and cuts off Cinder's grim arm. With Raven set free, Cinder is clutching what's left of her arm and shouting, "Ah, you bastard!" in absolute agony right now. Okay, next up, Hazel versus Rena Nora. This plays out roughly as you'd expect. Ren unfortunately still goes down kind of quick. Sorry, buddy. And when Nora tries to stop him, he does the exact same thing. And of course, Nora uses her semblance to power herself up and sends Hazel flying, unfortunately, into the fight between Crow, Cinder, and Raven. So that's how that connects. Next we come to Oscar/Ozpin versus Lionheart. Now this goes exactly as how you expect. Poorly for Lionheart. Hell, if Oscar could take on Leo just by himself in the original, I imagine with Ozpin switching in and out, oh boy, Leo is screwed. I'm just picturing right now, Leo tries to shoot flaming rock balls at Oscar. Well, Ozpin is in control at this point. But he deflects him with his cane and then just proceeds to beat the crap out of him. Just like how he did to Hazel in the original. So yeah, I don't see Leo lasting too long in that fight. Now finally, we come to RWBY and Yang versus Emerald and Mercury. The two sisters are able to take them on. And remember, Yang's actually in a better shape this time around because, well, she didn't have to deal with both of them at the same time. Of course, RWBY still gets her moment of headbutting Mercury in the face. I mean, nothing's gonna take that away. And they do switch like back and forth, you know, change things up, catch them by surprise. It's just awesome to see RWBY and Yang fighting alongside each other more. And I actually kind of imagine a team move between the two, where Yang grabs hold of RWBY and she grabs onto like the blunt end of Crescent Rose. Yang swings them around for like way more momentum and just smashes them. Don't lie, that would be awesome. But of course, as Yang is fighting Mercury just one-on-one, he does think, hey, I'm gonna antagonize her a bit, and tries to rub in what happened at the tournament, and some other stuff. This is really getting to Yang over time, and eventually, she throws a no-holds-barred punch right to his face and shatters his aura. But this knocks Mercury over to the ledge of the platform they're all standing on, and he begins to lose his balance. Now, of course, Yang sees this, tries to grab his hand and save him, but she's just a little bit too late. Emerald turns around, sees that, Mercury's about to fall off the ledge, uses the chain part of her weapon to, try and grab him, but again, just misses, and Mercury falls. Emerald leans over the ledge, like, reaching her arm out, just yelling, "Mercury!" Mercury falls into the darkness down below. The three of them are dead silent. And we hear Mercury's impact with the ground. Mercury's dead. Now, Yang is frozen at this point. Not like Raven was. As in, she's just not moving and saying anything. She's just stunned at the fact that she just unintentionally killed someone. And Emerald is absolutely livid. She's got tears in her eyes, and she's ready to avenge Mercury. But in this instance, she hears Cinder yelling in pain, turns around, and sees that Crow is ready to kill her. All of this is just getting to Emerald. She just had to watch Mercury die, and now Cinder's about to die right in front of her too. And sure enough, she does her Salem illusion thing. Once everyone is distracted by that, Hazel grabs Cinder and Emerald and makes his way to the lift. That's what's called an elevator in the UK, alright? And of course they leave. Cinder at this point is just like, get the fuck off me! Oh wait, hold on, this is RWBY. Get the hell off me! And they leave. But I imagine Leo would try his best to get on with them, but just misses chance. Once the villains are gone and the illusion has subsided, the heroes realize that they left. But they see Leo, like, just looking up and yelling, "No, no, come back! Don't leave me here with..." Sees that, well, everyone's looking at him, and Crow punches him in the face, knocking him out. They recall the lift, all get on, and leave the vault. So, in this alternate timeline, the door to the relic doesn't even get opened. So I guess it's just staying where it is. For now, at least. Like, who knows? But right now, they just need to get Raven some medical attention. Weiss is perfectly fine, thanks to Jean discovering his semblance, and Yang's still trying to process what happened. As they get back up to the room, they leave, and are surprised to see Blake and the rest of the White Fang there. But I imagine, like, well, the evil White Fang, that's what I'm gonna go with, would already be apprehended at this point, because Blake has no reason to go into that room and help out, because she didn't know anyone was there. They were all in the vault at that point. So, the whole White Fang deal would just be done all the faster. Of course, with the police there, they have Leo placed under arrest. So, who knows how this could affect Salem's plan? Now, of course, Blake is surprised and just happy to see everyone, just like she was in the original. But she spots Yang, who's just got this terrified look in her eye, and she's not even... She doesn't know that Blake is there right now. She's just, just dealing with the thought that she let her anger get the best of her and, like, lashed out, and as a result, killed someone. In fact, she can still hear Mercury screaming. Blake walks up to her just saying, "Yang?" as she does in the original story. Yang looks up, begins to tear up a little bit, and just grabs hold of Blake, hugging her, and just starts to cry. And sure enough, Blake hugs her back. I think that's where I'm gonna leave this part. So, quite a fair bit has changed right now. Cinder didn't fall, Mercury's dead, no one has the relic, and Yang now has to process with taking a life. What information could they get out of Leo? What will Raven do? Because she didn't leave, she still has multiple holes in her torso and needs to get medical care. So, she's not leaving right now. Unfortunately, Volume 6 isn't out yet, so I have to wait a considerable amount of time before I can revisit this topic. But I do have another what if in mind, well, for the next time I decide to do one of these. So for now, let me know what you think. How will Yang deal with killing Mercury? What will Raven do? What kind of info can they get out of Leo? And as I say in all of my videos, thanks for watching, all of that stuff, and here's my Tracer outro. Bye.
Hello loves, Tracer here. You've just watched a video by your only mate. Subscribe, like, comment and check out his other stuff. Cheers loves!